Now let's talk about converting. Now you will usually hear casting and converting mentioned pretty close in the same sentence. And so let's start off and talk about the difference. Casting is when we're basically moving data between value types. And if you can go back and look at the built-in value types video, and anytime we go, say, from a byte to an integer or from integer to long and so forth, we're going to cast to do that. That's staying within the value types. When we're trying to move something actually from a value type into a reference type, we're going to have to convert that. We're going to have to convert the data type because we're not just changing from one particular subdivision of a type, we're actually changing it to a different kind. And so we're going to go from a value type into a reference. And I'll show you a good example of that. And I've opened our VTC class solution and project, and I've gone in here and on the click button event I've cleaned everything off again. And so what I want to do is when I click on the button here, I want to just change the text of the button to a numerical value that we set up. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go in here and I'll just create an integer called x and set it equal to 4. And then what I want to have happen is whenever we click on this button, so we'll call the click button, when we call that event, we're going to change the text property of the click button equal to x. Sounds like it should work. Well, notice that when I run this, it's going to throw me an error. And it tells me, oh, wait a minute, dude, you've got some build errors. Now, you got to read this, and I haven't pointed this out, but you have to read this and pay attention because it says, would you like to continue and run the last successful build? And if I say yes, it looks like the program runs okay. But actually, it ran the last successful build if you had one. So I want to say no here. And notice it says, I'm not going to implicitly convert this integer into a string. And what that means is we've got an integer loaded in x, but the text value on button calls for a string. So to use that, we are going to use the convert class, and we are simply going to convert this from an integer, from a value type, into a string, which is a reference type. So here's how we're going to do that. We're going to call convert, and what we're actually using here are static methods, and we will talk about those later. Just remember that we dealt with these things already. Then I will just pass x to that method, and I think we should be okay. Now when I run this, notice we don't get any errors, and when I click it, it converted it. All right, very straightforward, very easy to do things. I can call on this trick over and over and over, and you will come across this instance quite a bit as you code when you're trying to take numbers and report them somewhere or do something with them, and it's very easy to convert it right here and use it. So that's the convert class, okay? And I'll just point out here, let me show you some things right quick, that notice we can convert to a string and to these other types, and a base 64 string, Boolean, to a byte, to character, to date time, to decimal, to double. All these things down through it we can convert to. So just be aware of this and go out and use this when you need it to grab a data type and change it into whatever you need to be able to display it or do whatever you're trying to do with it. Okay, so that's converting.